Can everyone see the screen? Okay. So, welcome to Social Work 1A06, Introduction to Social Work. I hope everybody's in the right room. Yes? I'd just like to introduce myself, and I call this Why You Should Listen to Me. Other than that, they pay me to stand at the front of the room. I have an honors BA in psychology, that's where I started, and then I got a master's of social work in social work, and my PhD is in sociology. So that's my education. My practice, I spent 15 years in the field. I went to school, worked, etc. Now I'm here forever. I've worked with adolescents in conflict with the law. I've worked in child welfare. I've worked with newcomers. I've done some family therapy. But I guess my heart was really in work in the area of violence against women, so working with women who were in abusive relationships or who had grown up in abusive homes, people who had grown up in abusive homes. I also worked with men who were identified or identified themselves as abusive. And the other area that my heart lies in is mental health. My research has been in the area of violence against women, but more recently has been in the area of teaching, and particularly teaching with technology. And I'm also the director of the Office of Experiential Education, which you'll hear more about over the year. So I'm assisted in teaching by teaching assistants. That's why they're called teaching assistants. And these are your tutorials. You've been assigned to tutorials by the registrar's office. I also run a tutorial just because there's so many of you and we want people to get into as small groups as possible. So if you're in tutorial 1, you have me. If you're in tutorial 2, you have Laurel Curley. Can you stand up, Laurel? I saw you walk in. There she is. I don't know if Amber is here. Yes, you are. There you are. There's Amber. Rebecca. Cameron. There's Cameron. He's standing up. Oh, there are seats throughout the room, you guys who are standing up. Will Rowe. There's Will. And Shannon. That's Shannon. So at least, I'm sure you won't remember their faces, but you'll get to know these people. So now some questions about you. How many of you are under the age of 17? We usually have one or two. Really? Nobody? One year I had someone whose 16th birthday was going to be in November. They won the youngest person race. How many of you are 17? 18? 19? 20? 21? Over 21. I'm not going all the way up. Yeah, me, I'm over 21 too. What's your hometown? How many of you are from Hamilton? Okay, now the important question. How many of you live down the mountain? And how many of you live up the mountain? So in Hamilton, there is a divide between those people who live down the escarpment and those people who live up on the escarpment. But we in Hamilton call it a mountain, even though anybody who's seen a mountain knows that it's not a mountain. It's our mountain. And people on the mountain are a little bit snobby about being on the mountain, and people who live down the mountain are a little bit snobby about living down the mountain. So I live down the mountain, but if you live up the mountain, don't worry. I'm a social worker, and I work through my prejudices. It's not a problem. Surrounding area, Burlington, Dundas, Flamborough. Another part of Ontario. Another province or territory in Canada. Are you feeling lonely now all of a sudden? Yes. Outside of Canada, your hometown. Okay. Can the TAs come up and help me hand out the course outlines, please?
Thank you.
I think I have to give you bigger bunches. Oh. I feel small. I love the way it went quiet when you started talking. Okay. Hello? Just to let you know that these lectures are podcast and will be posted on Avenue to Learn. Now, I really caution you because some people think that just listening to the podcast is the same as coming to class, and it isn't. But a podcast is great to review the material or if you can't avoid missing a class. Don't worry. Sorry. Now, the one important thing to remember, if you are podcasting a lecture, is that if you swear under your breath, it is taped and put on file for eternity. So the first year I podcast lectures, every once in a while you can hear a little, but I think I've learned now. Do the people at the back want to come and find seats while we're handing out the course outlines? There's quite a few seats. They're just sort of in the middle. One of the things that people might want to do to help out those who are late is leave the seats on the end empty. Does anybody need a course outline? Anybody else need a course outline? Laurel's got it. There you go. Okay. You got extras? Thank you. Okay, so let's start. We'll come back to taking care of your learning needs, but let's start with the course description. This is a general introduction. So, how many of you are first years? Oh, wow. Okay, how many of you aren't first years? All right. So, for some of you who aren't first years, who are in the second or third or even fourth year of your degree, or who are coming back after completing a degree, this is an introductory course. So I will be presenting information at an introductory level. There are some concepts and ideas that are much more complex than I will be presenting them. But you have to start somewhere, right? You have to start at the beginning with the concept. So some of you who may have worked with some of these issues in great detail will will see the way I present it as quite simplistic, or more simplistic than you understand it, but that's okay. So don't get frustrated, just understand that we need to start at the beginning. We're also going to be looking at issues in a very multi-layered way. So we're going to be looking at issues at the local level, at the provincial and national level, and at the global level. We do tend to focus on the local, because that's quite practical. And we'll be talking about a lot of connections between the personal and the political, between your daily life and things that happen in much larger spaces. So that's the course description. The fundamental principles of both this course and the School of Social Work put oppression and social justice as central to your education. So it will be central to this course. I will be challenging a lot of the views you may hold. And you may see me as coming from a very opinionated place. I am very opinionated. Anybody who knows me knows I'm very opinionated. But I would like to point out to you that every professor who stands in front of you is coming from a perspective. But some perspectives feel more comfortable than others because they're more mainstream. The perspective of this course is not mainstream. And I don't expect you to agree with everything I teach you, but I do expect you to learn it and be able to explain it to me. And I think the other piece of our philosophy is that it's not enough just to understand that oppression exists and that social justice is what needs to exist. It's also important to act. Now, we won't be doing that in this class, but you will be hearing guest speakers who spend time in the community working for social justice. So we're on page 2 now. And you can take time to read this more carefully. This will be available on Avenue to Learn, which will be live sometime tonight or early tomorrow morning. It's also available on the School of Social Work website if you happen to lose it. But this is an important document. The course outline acts as a contract between myself and you, or me and you, which is the right grammar. So I have certain objectives. There's things that I would hope that you learn going through this course, and they're my course objectives. I want to develop your awareness of social context. Some of you are already very aware of social context, some of you not so much. And that's fine, you all start in your own place, but I want to help increase your awareness. From wherever you are, I want to increase that awareness. I want to improve your ability to identify and analyze the operation of oppression. I want to challenge your understanding of personal problems. We're also going to talk about basic social work practices. So what do social workers do? How do they do their work? And I'm going to introduce that at the individual, the family, and the community level. We'll also be talking about social policy, which is at a broader national and global level. I also want to give you a basic understanding of how the Canadian social welfare system works. So how many of you understand the operation of the Canadian government? It's okay. Maybe. I would be about here. I do understand the social welfare system. So hopefully by the end of the course, if I say, do you understand the social welfare system? Everybody will go, oh yeah, I got it. And part of this course, as an introduction to social work, is to help you to decide if you want to apply to the School of Social Work or not. And some of you are here because you want to apply, and some of you are not even thinking of applying. And in both those groups, some of you will change your mind. Some of you have come into this course and thought, okay, I'm taking social work, but I'm never going to be a social worker, and you may change your mind. And some of you have come into this course, and you want to be a social worker more than anything in the world, and you may also change your mind by the time we get to the end of the course. So hopefully I'll assist you with that decision. This course, I'm sort of glad it's early in the week, because this course is going to be different than almost any other course you take in its structure. And that's because I really believe that students need to learn in a lot of different ways. So there's 3 layers to this course. There are the lectures, which will be about an hour and a half, an hour to an hour and a half. And we'll have lots of guest lectures as well. There will be some online and some independent work that you will do, so some learning that you will do on your own. And we will be engaged in workshops. Now, I've chosen not to call them tutorials because they're different than tutorials, and you'll only be going every 3rd week for an hour and a half. Okay, I know you're all going to be really confused. I have a chart. I'm very proud of this chart. It may confuse you more. Okay. Oh, come on! That is the coolest chart. Look at it. So, this is how you read the chart. You're all in different tutorials. You all know your tutorial number. Each tutorial is split into 3. A, B, or C. So, if you are in tutorial 1A, so you're the first group from the first tutorial, my tutorial, you come week 1, next week. Next week, I want the 1As with me in this room. The 2As will be with Laurel in whatever room she's in. And it's on your schedules what your tutorial room is. Yes?
How do we know if they were in tutorial 1, how do we know if we're able to?
Well, I spent probably about 5 hours sorting you into tutorials. So once Avenue to Learn is live, you go and check your group, what group you've been assigned to, and it will tell you which you are. Every week in the news, I will post which tutorial, which A, B, or C is going to tutorials that evening. Yes. Yes, you.
So for that tutorial, are we meeting after this lecture? Are we still having that?
Okay, just a second. I have to let you know I have difficulty hearing. If you talk while somebody else is talking, I cannot hear them. Could you say that again, please?
Yeah, I said if we have a tutorial directly after this lecture, are we still going to that?
There is no tutorial this evening. Don't be so excited. You're supposed to go, damn, I wanted to go to tutorial. See, now that's going to be podcast. So next week, the A's go to tutorial. What this does is it means that instead of having a tutorial of 70 students, there's a tutorial of 20 to 22 students. So you get some small group work. You get to know other people, you get to know the TAs. Now, every tutorial, every workshop will require you to do some work before the tutorial. That will also be posted. For next week, there's a study skills checklist that you need to do and bring to the tutorial with you. And you also need to look for a website that might be helpful. Once you do the study checklist, it'll show you which areas that you need development in. You need to find a website that would help you with one of those areas and bring it to the workshop as well. and that will be on Avenue to Learn. So I'll remind you. Okay? The slides are also on Avenue to Learn. You can look at this lovely chart anytime you like. So, why did you choose this class? It fit into my schedule. It's okay if that's the reason. Nobody wants to say that. It sounded interesting. This is a good one to butter me up. No? Nobody? One person. Good for you. 2 people. Yay. I want to get into the social work program. Okay. We'll be talking more about that. I heard it was a bird course. It's on Bird Course. There you go. It's on birdcourse.com. I will tell you that if you want to pass this course, if you just want to pass, you're okay. If you want an A, only 5% of the class got A's. My point is, it's not a bird course. I've always wanted to know more about social work. This is our text. Quite lovely. Stephen Hicks, Social Work in Canada. It is an easy read. Please do the readings because they're not hard. I picked it intentionally to give you an accessible background to the topics we're covering. So let's look at the topics we'll be covering. So we're on page 3 now, just to give you an idea. They're a mix of the theoretical and practice. When we're talking about the theoretical, I try to start at the theoretical and then move towards practice, so make things more practical. So we'll be talking about, next week we'll be talking about power and social justice, and you'll notice that each week has a question. And I hope that by the end of the lecture you have the answer to the question, or more questions, which is also good. Then we'll be talking about oppression and access to resources, what Hamilton is doing, so the local level, what is Hamilton doing to assist people with inadequate resources? And then we move up. What are some of the federal and provincial responses? We'll be talking about ableism and disability. So attitudes. We'll start with attitudes. Then we'll talk a little bit about the health system and how we as a community respond to disability. And then we'll be talking about mental health, one of my particular areas, and an area of disabilities that I think is often neglected. Then we'll get very practical and look at social work practice at the individual level and then at the family level. And we'll end up the term talking about ageism and long-term care. And then we'll have exam review. The year goes pretty quickly. When we come back, we'll be talking about racism and globalization. So we'll be talking about settlement issues. We'll be talking about racism and Canada's Indigenous peoples. Then we'll look at social work at the meso, community, and macro social policy levels. We're just whipping through the year here. We'll be looking at gender, and then violence against women, homophobia and heterosexism, creating safe spaces for the GBLTQ community. And then we'll be looking at child welfare, because child welfare is a place where all of the issues of oppression that we've been talking about come together. And child welfare is a particular area of social work practice. So we'll talk about oppression in the child welfare system and then dealing with oppression in the child welfare system. Then we're done. How am I going to evaluate your learning? There's several ways. Participation. So you are required to go to tutorials. Attendance will be taken. You'll be expected to hand in the various little things that I ask you to bring to tutorials. That will be included in your participation mark. You'll be expected to reflect on the exercises that you do in your workshops. So there will be some reflection papers. And there will be small assignments. So, and then of course we have an exam in December and an exam in April. Because there's so many small things that you do in this course, we group them together and you submit them at 3 times during the year that are fairly evenly spaced. So your first submission is October the 27th. And October the 27th, you'll be handing in several reflection papers and an assignment, maybe 2 assignments. The same thing will happen for the second submission and the third submission. So you have things that you have to do throughout the term, and then you have to hand them in at a particular time. I would strongly recommend that you do them throughout the term, rather than waiting to the night before. So if you're trying to do everything you have to hand in on October 26th, you are going to be a very unhappy person. And your marks will suck. Unless you are one of those rare individuals who can pull that off. Don't assume you're one of those rare individuals. All submissions will be made on Avenue to Learn. And when it gets closer to submission time, I'll do a workshop with you on Avenue to Learn, just so you don't freak out. And the other thing is, if something is due at 7 o'clock at night, don't try to upload it at 6:58, because there will be 100 other people trying to upload it at 6:58, and you will be late. And the Dropbox closes at 7 o'clock, and then you're going to have to start emailing people. I'll give you that reminder again. So let's look at some of the course policies, because there's a zillion. We'll also talk more about the exams as we get closer. You have to ask for extensions ahead of time. Calling me at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when your paper's due at 7 will not work, because I'm not likely to answer the phone, first of all. And second of all, it's too late. So if you need an extension, you need to get a hold of me early. Extensions are only given for compassionate reasons or illness. Compassionate reasons are not, you have to pick up your friend at the airport. Compassionate reasons are something has happened in your life that has knocked you out for several days, right? That's put you out of commission for several days. So it's going to be something big. The late penalties are 5% a day, including the weekends. You need to read the piece on academic integrity. We will be going over that in more detail in the workshops. And you need to know that in terms of Avenue to Learn, that there is some, so we're on page 10. There is some information about you that is available to other people on Avenue to Learn, such as your name. Not your student number, but your name. And that if you have issues with that for particular reasons, you need to come and speak to me. This is where I go like this. I think that it's very difficult to teach a class this large. And it's difficult because there's lots of different people in this class. And some of the topics, some of you are going to love. You're going to be mesmerized by them. And some of you are going to fall asleep. They're just not going to interest you. Or they're going to be at a level that is you're way beyond that level, or you've heard it in another class, but I have to teach to all of you. So I understand that you get bored. I understand that you might fidget or talk, and I really don't care if you talk, and I really don't care if you watch YouTube videos on your computer. It doesn't bother me. Like, I don't lose. I can stand up and talk to an empty room and still get paid. So what I am concerned about is how your behavior impacts people around you, how it affects their learning, because it's my responsibility to make this a good learning environment. So if you are yakking away at the back about what you did this weekend, it's bothering everybody around you. And there are people in front of you, behind you, beside you who want to hear what I have to say. That might seem amazing to you, but there are. The same is true if you use your computer for something other than taking notes. I would find it absolutely impossible to concentrate if somebody was watching a funny video in front of me. It wouldn't matter how interesting the person at the front of the room was, that video would draw my eye. And then I can't concentrate on what's happening in the classroom. And again, I've lost my learning experience. So if you're bored, if you want to watch YouTube videos, if you want to talk to your friends on Facebook, if you want to text, go home. You don't have to be here. Listen to the podcast. If you're not interested, listen to the podcast. If you're interested, come and pay attention. So try to be prepared for your workshops, in particular, because everybody is going to share information in those workshops, and if you come without your preparation, then first of all, you're not going to be as engaged, and second of all, everybody else is going to have done the work and you won't have. Try to arrive on time. I know that things happen. I'm late more often than not. But try to arrive to class and workshops on time, because when you come in, that disturbs other people if you come in late. We're not really going to have breaks because we're going to move from lecture to workshops. So the lecture is only going to be about an hour and a half, and you can have a break. We'll probably go till 20 after, and then you can have a break between here and wherever you're going for your workshop. Or you'll go home, and then that's a break. Turn off your cell phone. Don't text. If you forget to turn off your cell phone, don't freak out. I usually forget to turn off my cell phone. It's really embarrassing to choose somebody out for their cell phone going off and then have your cell phone go off. I've had that happen to me, actually. There's no audio or video recording in the room without my permission. And again, that's for the privacy of everybody in the room. Because if you want to audio record, and I know there's some people who need to record, then you need to sit at the front of the room. So you're not recording the people around you. Now, this is podcast, so you don't really need to record it. But if you feel that need, please come and talk to me. Don't take pictures without permission as well. And that's, again, for the privacy of the people around you. So that's my finger wagging for the evening. If you go back to the front, and I should have started with this, because I start with it on the course outline. Everybody learns differently. I've tried to set up the course so that it appeals to and evaluates different kinds of learners. But there are people in the room who have specific learning needs because of health reasons or mental health reasons or learning disabilities, for whatever reason. please go, if you have one of those learning needs, please go to Student Accessibility Services and talk to them. Please come and talk to me, because I want you to be able to learn the best way you can. That's my job. So that's the first thing in terms of being successful. Okay, now I'm in trouble because I've lost my notes. There they are. So listen to experience. I know this is a terrible picture. This is a picture of social work students. And one of the things that I did was I went and talked to upper year social work students and said, okay, you're graduating. What would you like people to know that you wish you'd known when you first started? And these are some of the things that they said to me. And actually, I think I felt the same way when I graduated from undergrad. Come to class more regularly. All those classes that they skipped, they realized that they were actually missing something. Read the readings before the exam. And I would add to that, read the readings before the night before the exam. The readings are on the exam. There is nothing like trying to read half a book in one night. They wish they'd ask more questions. I'm really open to people asking questions. I'm open to people challenging me. However, you have to be prepared, because I will respond. I'll try to respond kindly, but if I disagree with you, I'll tell you, right? I'll say, no, I don't think so. And that's okay, right? We can disagree about things. Or I might say, you know, that's a good point. I didn't think of it that way. They wish they'd spent more time with their fellow students and spent more time getting to know their TAs and their prof. So what I would like you to do right now is stand up. Everybody's looking at me like, what? I have to put my books down. Okay. Oh, man. Now, I want you to introduce yourself to the person on your right side. Okay. It's really interesting, like 4 or 5 people fled the class. I'm not sure what that means. Okay, introduce yourself to the person on your left-hand side. Yeah, I know, it's kind of hard to introduce yourself to the wall. Hello, how are you? Now, turn around behind you and introduce yourself to the person behind you. Okay, now you can sit down again. Now you know at least 3 people in this class. And you may have known them before. That's okay. But everybody in this class knows at least 3 people in this class, or has been introduced to at least 3 people in this class. And if you didn't get a chance to do that, particularly the people in the front down here who are sitting all by themselves, which makes it a little bit awkward, you people in the middle, make sure you introduce yourselves to them. So if there was anybody who was kind of left out, some of you make sure you introduce yourself when we leave the class. Most importantly, they wish they'd thought of their learning as fun and interesting rather than a chore. And most of them say that after they've been out working for a little while, and they all want to come back to school. I think especially for the first years, it's important to understand that this is a year of transitions, and that transitions are difficult. The differences between high school and university. In university, you mostly get to take what you want. Not all the time. Sometimes you have to take core courses that are boring, but you get more choice. Nobody will bug you if you don't come to class. In a class this big, I may not even notice. What's interesting is when I do. We don't have a principal. right? So I can't say, you, principal's office. Stop talking or I'm sending you to the principal's office. But you can get kicked out. You'll be treated like an adult learner, which it means I expect you to take responsibility for your learning. I know that many of you may have looked at your schedule and gone, oh, geez, I'm only here that many hours a week? That's easy. You will be doing twice as much work outside of the classroom as inside of the classroom. So think, for every hour of lecture you have 2 hours of reading and preparation. And some people say 3. It depends how quickly you work. Build that into your time. It is much easier to fail. There isn't anybody paying attention to you and making sure that you're doing okay. Well, maybe, if you have parents or guardians who do that kind of thing. But I can't do that. There's 475 of you. If you come to me or you come to one of the TAs, I'll be more than happy to help you. So if you're running into trouble, you need to let us know, because there's too many of you to keep track. We'll try, but it's really hard. So if you're starting to crash and burn, let me know. And there's night classes like this one, and they're really long. 3 hours is a long time to sit and listen to anybody, which is part of the reason I break it up. Connecting with us. I will tell you that the best way to get a hold of me is email or to come to my office hours. And I love students coming to my office hours. I'm terrible with the phone. I will also tell you that if you email me, do not expect me to respond immediately. It's not happening. I may, because that may have been the time I was sitting doing my email, but it may be 24 hours. The phone may be longer. Sometimes I forget to check my phone messages. Don't tell anybody that. Oh, damn, it's taped. Rick, the guy who does these things, he'll know. But he won't tell me, it's okay. And you can go to the social work office. It's open from 9 to 4 every day with a break for lunch. If you're interested in getting into the social work program, please talk to Lorna. Don't tell her I said that. She's the person, she's lovely, actually, and she can really help you. Have you met a social worker? How many of you are related to a social worker? How many of you know one as a friend or a friend of the family? Now, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. How many of you have been a client of a social worker? I have worked with a social worker. Actually, I can say yes to all of these. I'm not related to one except me. And how many of you have never met a social worker? Interesting. Well, you have now, because I am. You can come up and shake my hand if you want. So the last thing I want to do is talk about some of the myths. How many of you love Wall-E? Okay. So one of the myths is that social work is about fixing people. And it's definitely not about fixing people. It's about facilitating change with people. And that's a really important distinction. Most people don't need to be fixed. They need help fixing their lives and the context that they live in. So that's one of the first myths. The second myth is that social work is only talking. Anybody can do it. Anybody could be a social worker. All you have to do is talk and listen. And my response to those people is, okay, go be a social worker for a day, then we'll talk. The kind of talking that social workers do is quite specific and quite intentional. And there's a lot more that goes on with social workers than talking, and you'll find that out this year. It's only counseling. So when people think about social workers, they think about sitting in a room, one person with one person. And actually, that's the minority of social work. And we'll talk about that as well. And the other is that social workers are bleeding hearts with rose-colored glasses. And that really, people are just lazy, and if they would just pull up their socks and get on with life, they'd be fine. And my response to that is, what's wrong with caring about people? What's wrong with being optimistic? And frankly, most social workers I know do not wear rose-colored glasses. We tend to see the worst part of the world, the people who are in the most trouble, the people who are suffering more than others. So rose-colored glasses are kind of handy in that situation. And I'm quite willing to say I'm a bleeding heart. I care about people. I love caring about people. I think it's really important. And so if you don't like to care about people, this course may bug the heck out of you. See, I said heck. Did you notice that? How do you know this class is over? So one of the things I've noticed about classes is that when you start to get to the end of the class, everybody starts to fidget and put their papers together. It's kind of like, no, the contract is that we leave now and you're going over time. So when the picture of my lovely Lillian comes up, that's when you'll know that the class is over. Now you may want to stay a minute because I'm going to tell you about Lillian. Lillian is a pit bull. Yes, one of those vicious, horrible dogs. Lillian is 11 years old. See, that's what you do, but the dog's up. Okay, if you want to go, that's fine. I'll see you next week. Well, if people want to leave, leave. If people want to hear about Lillian, stay. We'll give you people who want to leave a few minutes. And you people are leaving, hurry up so we can talk about my dog. If you also want to stay, you can ask any questions you might have. Because I didn't really give you an opportunity to do that. Okay. Please leave quietly. Lillian is 11 years old. She is deaf, diabetic. She has arthritis. And today she's trying to manage an allergic reaction. And she still acts like a puppy. If you would like continuing bulletins about Lillian, I can provide those on Avenue to Learn. Any questions? Yes? Are you asking about the textbook?